Welcome to this video in the Financial Basics series from Managing My Money. Today we would like to talk about the difference between credit card and debit cards. A lot of college students, high school graduates going to college, or even college graduates getting their first job may not know the difference between the two and may use them the same way, which leads to problems in their financial outlook. So let's take a little bit of a look about the difference between these. First, let's start with the debit cards. So debit cards are using money that you already have. It's money that's in your bank account, either your checking or your savings account. So every time that you use the card, it's going to reduce the amount in your account. However, it's free to use for purchases. So you can go to the store and you use it. It looks just like a credit card, and it's used the same way. You can use it for online purchases. You can use it for store purchases. Additionally, you can go to the ATM and just pull cash out. It's pulling cash out of your bank account, and there's a very low cost to do that. Usually, it's just an ATM fee. Some banks will charge, or credit unions will charge a small fee, but you can find out what that is. It's typically a reasonable fee to just pull cash out when you need it. Okay. However, there are some things that a debit card does not do for you. So using a debit card does not help you to build up a credit score because that's not use of credit. It's using your money. It also does not offer protections that credit cards offer for online purchases. So you can use it online just like you can a credit card. However, be aware that when you put that number in, if it's a debit card, then if somebody fraudulently gets access to your account information and uses that to purchase something, it's pulling that money directly out of your bank account. And it could be hard to get that money back, to go to the bank and try to get the money back because it's your money and the money's gone. So, some debit cards offer a little bit more protection these days, depending, but usually you do not have the protections that you would have with a credit card. So now let's look at credit card. Credit cards can be a source of problem for people who don't know, who think that they're used similarly to debit cards, because even though they look the same, they're very different. So every time you use a credit card, you're using money that you do not have. Essentially, when you go to the store and hand somebody your credit card or you put it in online, you're asking for a loan from the bank. You're asking to use their money. Even if you have money in the bank that you could pay it off, you're using the bank's money to purchase it. And the bank will give you a period of time, usually it's a grace period, maybe 20 to 30 days, basically until the next billing cycle to pay it off. They'll say, here, we'll loan you this money. And if you pay it off within the next 20 days or so, then it's okay. They're not going to necessarily charge you. However, the cost can be high. You will always pay back more than you borrowed. So if you don't pay that balance off every month, and I'm talking the entire balance on the card. So when that bill comes in and you look at the balance on the card, if you don't pay the whole thing off, then you're going to be paying back more than you borrowed. The costs also, be aware that you should never use a credit card like an ATM. You can go to an ATM and they call it a cash advance for credit cards. It's a cash advance because they're lending you cash instead of lending you buying power. They're lending you cash, but there's an extremely high extra cost. So imagine whatever the cost is to use ATM to purchase something, double it. Right, essentially, and that's an extra cost to pull cash out from the ATM. You should never use it for that purpose. Additionally, be aware that the costs from using your card, they begin the moment that you make that purchase. Every single day, they are adding charges to you that you're going to have to pay in addition to, let's say you went and bought something for $10 with this card. Well, the very next day, it's now more than $10 because they've added a fee. And then the very next day after that, guess what? They've added another fee. And the day after that, and it's an exponential fee. That means that the second day, the fee is higher than it was the first day. And the third day, the fee is higher than it was the second day. And it exponentially grows. Now, they do give you this, and by the way, you'll see I put here some penalty fees. So if you don't make the payment on time, in addition to those exponential charges, they will charge you a penalty fee. And if you don't pay on time for multiple times, not only will you have multiple penalty fees, but they will then also increase the cost of the loan the next time you use your credit card. So the only way to really avoid the cost of a credit card is to use it appropriately, and that means to pay off the entire balance every month. So when you use your credit card, the very next day they're adding a charge, and they do that for the next 20 days. Now, when you'll get the bill in the mail, they give you time to get the bill and to pay it. Um, if you pay it on time, the whole balance, then those charges they've been adding up, they'll just wipe those away and say, well, okay, you paid it on time. We're not going to charge you that. But if you don't pay it on time, let's say you pay just the minimum amount on the card, right? I'll pay the minimum because the debit credit card will have a minimum amount that you can pay. They don't ask you to pay the whole thing. They'll just say a minimum. If you just pay that minimum amount, then they'll take for everything you didn't pay. They'll take all those charges that have been adding up every day, and they'll then add that on. And then starting the next month, they're going to start billing you again exponentially until the next month when you pay it. So this can lead to debt problems and a bad credit score. So people who don't really understand the dangerous nature of credit cards can use it for, as an ATM to try to pull money, or to try to make big large purchases that they know they can't pay back, and they figure, well, I'll just pay it off over time. And because those costs are added exponentially and on top of each other, they can get so large that a person is struggling just to pay the interest on that credit card if you let it get too far out of hand. Okay, there's a good side to credit cards, right? So credit cards offer protections for online purchases. When you're using it, if you use a debit card for an online purchase and somehow somebody's hacked your account and they get your debit card and then they use that money comes directly out of your bank account and you may not recover it. Um, if somebody hacks your account and steals your credit card information and you detect and report it on time, right? Just within a few days, you realize, hey, wait a minute, something's happened. I didn't purchase that, and and you report it to the credit card company. You can petition the company, and they will actually remove those charges from you. They'll say, well, okay, we realize this wasn't actually you. Remember, it's their money, so it has not hit your bank account yet. And they'll look and they'll say, okay, they'll help you file, a report for it, and they'll actually remove those charges, right? Because they were fraudulent. So that kind of a protection is not offered to you when you're using a debit card for online purchases. Also, the proper use. Yeah, I say that there's a lot of bad things about credit cards, but if a person knows the differences and uses it properly, then it can help you to build a positive credit history. And what that will do is that actually the credit companies or future loan companies, if you want to buy a car or eventually buy a house or something, then people will look and say, oh, you have a history of being able to know how to get loans, i.e. using credit cards. Every time you use it, it's a loan, and paying them back on a timely basis and paying it back in full. And we can trust you to pay off your loans. So that will make you eligible for the better loan rates. The key here is knowing to use it properly. And what I mean by that is if you're a first time, you're in college or you're just out of college, if you have both a debit card and a credit card, you limit the use of your credit card to buying things that you can afford to buy in cash anyway, right? So if you're going to go to the store and you say, well, because the other thing I didn't put on here, credit cards, it's a third bullet. I didn't put it on here. A lot of credit cards have perks, right? They'll say, hey, we'll give you cash back, or you can get travel rewards. There's lots of things that they try to sell you on. And they're good things that you can use if you follow these guidelines. So if you if you go to the store or you go to make a clothing purchase and you say, hey, well, I could just use my my debit card for this because I have the money in the bank. Well, you can go ahead and instead use your credit card. Go ahead and get the points for your perks But then go home and the very next day log into your account and pay that credit card off. Just pay it off completely in full. Now you get all the perks and you're building your credit history and you're using it properly and you're not going to get into trouble. So those are the differences between credit cards and debit cards. Um, Now I have another video that talks about how to evaluate credit cards because not all credit cards are created equal. So if you're interested in that, look at my other video, and I hope you found value in this one. Thank you.